Hi, hello, and welcome back to Everso. This will be a reading of Why Bruce Wayne Should Adopt Tim Drake, a presentation by Dick and Jason, by Words of Wilderness of on Air Free. Summary. It hasn't gone unnoticed to Bruce that neither of his boys had sat down for breakfast yet. Instead, they stood by the other end of the table, forming a united front. They wanted something from him. Sighing, Bruce got his wallet out. "All right, what is it? A new gaming system? Training equipment? A pool?" They exchanged a conspiratorial look. Then, in unison, they announced, "A new brother!" "Oh dear," Alfred said, in which Dick and Jason tried to convince Bruce to adopt their neighbor's child. Bruce should have known better than to leave the boys home alone. But Alfred had been visiting family overseas, and Bruce wasn't going to trust Hal with an undercover league mission that delicate any time this century. So he called Dick in from Bloodhaven to keep an eye on Jason and convince himself it might have been a good opportunity for the two of them to finally bond. 1 week later, and at least the manor was still standing. But if anything, that should have been the first sign that something had gone awry. Bruce had arrived home during the late hours of the night. Alfred during the morning after. Now the entire family was gathering for breakfast at a completely reasonable hour around noon. That is, reasonable if keeping a bad schedule. Alfred was pressing oranges for fresh juice when Jason came rushing into the room. Dick, sliding in, socks over the hardwood floor right after. "Morning, morning," they both greeted, raising an eyebrow at the apparent lack of sibling rivalry between them. Bruce commented, "You two seem to be getting along better." Well, he did like it when his plans worked. "Yep, we decided to bury the hatchet," Jason explained. "Turns out teaming up to achieve a common goal does wonders." Tim grinned a little bit too widely to be considered innocent. "Oh dear," Alfred exclaimed in the background. It hadn't gone unnoticed to Bruce that neither of his boys had sat down for breakfast yet. Instead, they stood by the other end of the table, forming a united front. They wanted something from him. Sighing, Bruce got his wallet out. "All right, what is it? A new gaming system? Training equipment? A pool?" They exchanged a conspiratorial look. Then in unison they announced, "A new brother." "Oh dear," Alfred said. Bruce abandoned his fried eggs in favor of rubbing his temples to fight the headache that was surely coming. "And where do you propose we get one of those?" Over the years, he learned that dealing with devious children, and old enough to learn of his own degradation absolutely included, and rogues up to no good, had some surprising similarities. For one, how often you could get them to spill their entire plan by simply asking. "Don't worry, we saved you the work and already picked one out," Dick grinned, disappearing into an adjacent room and pulling out a small boy. See? Dick Grayson absolutely included. A few more eggs were cracked on a pan, sizzling. Just another day in the Wayne household. There weren't even any clowns or giant crocodiles involved this time. Perfectly normal. No, only Bruce kids decided to kidnap someone while he was away. At least he should be able to fit in damage control in between his meeting with Lucius and reading reports for the past week patrols. Jason pulled in a TV on a wheeled media table from the other room. Why Bruce Wayne Should Adopt Tim Drake, a presentation by Dick and Jason, read the title slide, complete with two familiar Wayne Enterprises themes used only by the board. Bruce made a mental note to change the password on his office computer. Again. Not that it would stop that much. He leaned back in his chair, ready to endure whatever monologue he was about to be subjected to. Meet Tim, Jason started, his hands on the shoulder of their neighbor's kid. Tim smiled sheepishly, clearly not used to the attention, as Dick, ever the performer, gestured to him with jazz hands. Hello, Mr. Wayne, sir. Tim greeted in a polite tone straight from the stuffiest of galas. With an incline of his head, Bruce insisted, Just Bruce, please. As you can see, Jason barged in as he changed the slide. He ticks the prerequisite of black hair and blue eyes. Those are not Bruce frowned, shutting up the moment Alfred levered a pointed look in his direction. The slides changed again, showing a screenshot of a straight A report card. He's on top of all his classes and even skipped a few grades, Dick said, using the opportunity to butt in. And how many languages do you know again? Spanish, Japanese, I'm learning German and Russian right now, Tim listed off. Raising a single eyebrow, Bruce acknowledged. Impressive. A Stan looked past over Tim's expression for a fleeting second before he schooled it back into a polite smile. Not used to recognition of his efforts. But before he could think much about it, Tim got his bearings and started up again. I also know both Taekwondo and Karate. Dick switched to the next slide, showing pictures of Tim in the middle of various combat moves. His eyebrows were doing gymnastics at Bruce. Jason grinned knowingly as the slides changed yet again. This time, it was a single picture of a preteen bedroom. Overstuffed bookshelves with everything from worn novels to technical manuals. All Tim's past belts were proudly displayed on the wall beside a poster with an artistic rendition of Robin, hook, line, and sinker. Jason reeled Bruce in as he added. His interests include photography, computer science, and detective stories. Bruce would be asking himself where the hell they found this kid if it wasn't for the fact that he already knew Tim lived next door. Pinching his nose, he sighed. Boys, you can't just kidnap a kid from their parents. Dick's smile grew mischievous as he said, Oh, that's the thing. Bruce's focus sharpened to a point. Mr. and Mrs. Drake were both very much alive last time he checked, thank you. Jason nudged Tim's shoulder as he encouraged. Tell him what you told us. How often are your parents home? A few days each year? Tim started, looking back and forth between them all. But I'm very independent. It's no trouble, really. And Mrs. Mac always comes by once a week to stock up the fridge. Oh my, Alfred said, turning sharply on the spot. The tea he had been in the middle of pouring made a puddle on the floor. And where are they right now? Bruce asked, leaning forward. It's been a while since he's seen them at any functions. They mentioned a new dig they were excited about last time, but that was months ago. But if the kid were to be believed, maybe they had been gone that long. Egypt, I think. That was the flight they booked when I looked it up, at least. They didn't really specify before they left this time, Tim said, trailing off in a mumble as he looked down at his feet. There was clearly a case for child neglect here. It was good that his boys brought this to his attention, even if it were in their own roundabout way. He could make sure Tim got a good home and foster him until then. So that should cover the last prerequisite, Tim summarized, clapping his hands together as this were a done deal. Being an orphan isn't. One look from Alfred and Bruce was shutting up. Putting an arm around Tim's shoulder, Jason prompted. So, Tim, you're more than welcome to stay with us until we can get your case sorted and get you a proper home. Then he could get a chance to observe the situation without overwhelming Tim with what could become a prolonged legal battle. You could never have too much data. Dick and Jason shot a glance before pulling Tim into a huddle. Dude, through their arms crossed around each other, and their hushed tone was clearly just for theatrics, considering their voices were still perfectly audible. Plan B, Dick suggested. We were not, Jason agreed. Plan B. I don't want to impose. You really don't have to, Tim started, but was cut off by Jason. We can crack him, trust me. It was spoken like someone who had already learned to read Tim's insecurities. Just what had those boys been up to while Bruce was gone? This was clearly not a development that happened only yesterday. Maybe it was the neighbor's manor he should have checked whenever it was burned down. We just need a slight change in strategy, Dick insisted. Do you have what we told you to prepare? There was some slight shuffling around until the slides were changed entirely and a new title shone up on the TV screen. The Advantages of Having 3 Children by Tim Drake. Turned out one of the things the boy had been up to was scouring every research paper for the statistic on parenting. There were graphs. Graphs! How was he supposed to resist graphs? These sources were even formatted in compliance with Wayne Enterprises guidelines, which was more than could be said for any of the board members he was usually dealing with. How had he even gotten those guidelines? He didn't even bother having those on his office computer. Following corporate guidelines for sourcing was one of the last things Bruce would ever be caught doing. But oh, the little boy pointing at the graphs with the most serious impression. Bruce was getting attached. It was the most adorable thing ever. By how smack Dick and Jason were looking, they knew exactly what he was thinking. He erased his own foibles and was about to do it all over again. Once Tim had finished the presentation, Dick stepped back in front of the screen with his hands on Tim's shoulders. He deployed his puppy eyes at Bruce as he implored. "Come on, he's basically already admitting you." "I will contact the lawyers," Bruce said. "Alfred, could you please set up a room for Tim? In the family wing, of course." "Certainly, sir." Nudging Tim with an elbow, Jason hummed. "Told you it would be easy." The end. Thank you for listening. If you have anything that you would like me to read, just comment it below and I will try to get an author to agree for me to PODFIC it. Anyway, stay healthy.